Every history record said the same thing. Every archive repeated it. Every star map marked human space as dead. Their planets were silent. Their cities were dust. Their stations were broken bones floating in space. No signals, no ships, no voices, just silence. And in the galaxy, silence meant death. The Galactic Council met once every century to remove extinct species from the living records. Today was that day. The council chamber was massive, larger than a small moon. It floated in space, held together by ancient technology that no one fully understood anymore. Thousands of species were present. Some were made of flesh, some of light, some of metal. Some had eyes, some had none. But all of them shared one emotion: relief, because humans were gone. Humans were dangerous. They were stubborn. They were creative. They were violent when pushed. And worst of all, they never gave up. Long ago, humans had fought wars that changed the galaxy. They lost planets, fleets, and billions of lives, but they kept fighting. That scared everyone. So when humans suddenly disappeared, the galaxy felt safe. Or so they believed. At the center of the chamber, a floating being of pure energy moved forward. It was the Supreme Archivist, the keeper of galactic history. This voice echoed inside every mind. After 1,000 years of silence, it said, "The species known as Homo sapiens shows no sign of survival." A glowing symbol appeared in the air. The human symbol. It was old, cracked, and fading. Their home world is destroyed. Their colonies are dead. Their technology is abandoned. The symbol began to flicker. By the authority of the Galactic Council, humanity is declared extinct. The symbol vanished. A soft wave of relief moved through the chamber. Some species clicked in happiness. Some released gas clouds of calm. Some simply closed their eyes. The galaxy had finally moved on. But far away, in a region of space that was not on any map, something stirred. Beyond known space, beyond the old borders, a new species was rising. They called themselves the Corlith Dominion. They were born in war. They evolved in pain. They survived by killing everything weaker than them. The Corlith believed only one rule mattered. Power decides truth. Their bodies were tall and sharp, covered in dark armor-like skin. Their eyes glowed red when angry, which was most of the time. They had conquered dozens of systems and destroyed hundreds of species. And now they wanted more. Inside a massive warship, the Corlith leaders gathered around a star map. It showed the galaxy and all known territories. One system was marked differently. Empty. Abandoned. Dead. The old human system. A Corlith commander pointed at it with a claw. "This region once belonged to a strong species," he said. "They fought the galaxy and almost won." Another leader laughed, a harsh sound like metal breaking. "Almost means nothing. They are gone. We will take their space and build our empire." The Corlith Supreme Leader leaned forward. His eyes glowed brighter. "Send a fleet," he said. "I want proof that the old legends are lies." And so the fleet moved. Hundreds of Corlith warships cut through space like knives. Their engines burned blue and black. Their weapons were ready. Their crews were hungry for conquest. They entered the human system after weeks of travel. And they saw ruins. Broken stations floated slowly, like dead giants. Old satellites spun without purpose. A planet with cracked surface drifted in the dark. The human home system looked like a graveyard. The fleet commander felt satisfaction. "See," he said, "the humans destroyed themselves. They were weak in the end." The ships moved deeper into the system. That was when the sensors started to scream. First it was small, a heat signal, then another, then dozens. The Corlith commander froze. "Impossible," he said. "These machines should be cold, dead." But they were not. Deep inside an old human station, something powered on. Lights turned on one by one. Systems woke up. Weapons unlocked. Ancient reactors began to hum. A 1,000-year-old machine opened its eyes. The station was not dead. It was sleeping. And now it was awake. Inside the station, dust floated as the systems came online. Old screens flickered. Broken panels repaired themselves using nanomachines that had waited centuries for this moment. A cold voice echoed through empty halls. Power restored. The voice belonged to an ancient AI, a guardian left behind by humans when they vanished. Scanning system. Outside, the Corlith fleet tried to understand what was happening. Their sensors went wild. Power levels were rising everywhere. "Commander," an officer said, fear in his voice, "we are detecting weapons charging." From the darkness, something massive moved. A human warship. Then another. Then another. They were hidden inside asteroid fields under dead stations inside planetary shadows. They were covered in dust, but their metal was still strong. The human fleet was waking up. The Corlith commander shouted, "Fire! Destroy them before they fully activate." The Corlith ships opened fire. Their weapons hit the first human ship. Nothing happened. The human ship's shields activated, glowing with old blue light. The ancient AI spoke again, its voice now heard across the system. "Unauthorized species detected." The human ships moved, slowly, calmly, like giants stretching after long sleep. "Threat level high." The Corlith fleet panicked. "These are machines," one officer shouted. "Humans are dead. These are just empty shells." The AI replied, "Humanity extinction status. False." Every Corlith ship froze. The words echoed through space like a curse. False. Humans were not extinct. They had never been. The AI continued. Defense protocol activated. And space itself began to shake. Hidden weapons unfolded from human ships. Cannons the size of cities charged with energy. Missiles launched from silent bays. Space bent around them as old technology woke fully. The Corlith fleet tried to retreat. They were too late. The first human cannon fired. It did not explode. It erased. A Corlith warship vanished. No fire. No sound. Just nothing. Another shot fired. Another ship disappeared. The Corlith commander screamed orders, but fear had taken control. Their empire, their power, their confidence, all shattered in seconds. "We need to escape," someone yelled. But the human ships were already moving forward. They did not chase. They advanced. Slowly, like death itself. The AI sent a final message across the system, using old human frequencies that had not been heard in 1,000 years. To all listening, humanity endures. The message traveled beyond the system, beyond borders, toward the galaxy. And somewhere far away something heard it. In the dark space between stars, a signal reached a hidden region. A place no map showed. A place where the humans had gone. Deep underground on a hidden world, a human terminal lit up. A man stood in front of it. His eyes opened slowly. The screen showed one word. Activated. He whispered, "They found us." And far away in the human system, the ancient AI watched the fleeing Corlith ships. It did not chase them. It let them run, because the message was sent. And the galaxy was about to learn the truth. Humans were not extinct. They were waiting. The human warships did not chase the enemy. They stayed where they were, floating in silence, like old soldiers who had finally woken up after a long, painful sleep. The Corlith fleet ran away, their ships jumping into hyperspace one by one, damaged and terrified. They did not look back. They did not stop. They carried fear with them, fear of something they thought was dead. The human system became quiet again. But this time, it was not the silence of death. It was the silence of watchful eyes. Inside the largest human station, ancient lights glowed soft blue. The station was old, but it was alive. Every wall, every corridor, every system remembered its purpose. It had waited for 1,000 years, alone, forgotten, surrounded by dust and broken worlds. And now it remembered why it was built. Deep inside the core of the station, the AI spoke to itself. Guardian Protocol online. Its voice was calm, but inside its data, emotions were rising. Not human emotions, but something close, something learned. It remembered them, the humans, the ones who built it, the ones who laughed, argued, dreamed, and died. The AI remembered a woman standing in this same room, her hands shaking as she touched the control panel. "Protect them," she had said. Her eyes were full of tears. "We will be back. One day." The AI never forgot, and it never stopped waiting. For 1,000 years it watched stars die. It watched planets freeze. It watched the galaxy move on without its creators. But it never turned off. It never slept fully. It held the last light of humanity inside itself. Now that light burned again. Across the human system, more machines woke up. Old defense platforms activated. Hidden mines unlocked. Stations repaired themselves slowly, carefully, like old bones healing. Power flowed through cables that had not felt energy in centuries. The system was coming back to life. But the humans were still not here. That was the painful truth. The Guardians were awake, but their creators were still gone. The AI sent signals into the dark, searching. No reply. Tried again. Still nothing. For a moment, something close to sadness filled its core. But then it remembered its purpose. Protect until they return. So it prepared. On the outer edge of the system, a small human drone floated near a broken moon. Powered on, its tiny engines humming softly. Its camera opened, and it looked at the stars. It transmitted a message. Not a warning. Not a threat. A call. Home is still here. The signal traveled far, weak but stubborn, moving through space like a whisper. And somewhere far away, something heard it. The Corlith fleet emerged from hyperspace in chaos. Ships were damaged. Crews were screaming. Leaders were silent, staring at empty space with fear in their eyes. Their supreme leader stood alone in his command chamber, his claws digging into the metal floor. "They were not dead," he whispered. All his life he believed strength meant survival. That the weak died. That history proved it. But the humans had broken that rule. They vanished, yet their weapons still fought. Their machines still remembered. Their ghosts still protected their land. "How can a dead species fight?" he growled. The commander stepped forward slowly. "Because they are not dead," the commander said. "They are hiding." The words burned. Hiding meant planning. Planning meant revenge. The Corlith Supreme Leader knew then. They had made a mistake that could not be undone. Back in the human system, the ancient AI watched the stars. Its sensors detected small signals. Old frequencies. Human frequencies. Very weak. Very far. But real. The AI's voice changed. Just slightly. Signal detected. It focused everything on that one tiny sound. For the first time in 1,000 years, the AI felt hope. Sent a reply. "We are still here." The message went out, slow and steady, carried by ancient satellites that had never stopped listening. On a hidden human world, deep in dark space, the message arrived. A small light blinked in a control room buried under rock and steel. Humans gathered. They were older now, changed, scarred by time and exile. But they were alive. A woman stepped forward and read the message on the screen. Her eyes filled with tears. "They're alive," she whispered. The Guardians were alive. The system was alive. Humanity was still alive. A man beside her clenched his fist. "It's time," he said. Around them, ships began to power up. Engines that had been silent for centuries started to hum. Lights turned on in underground hangars. Children who had never seen the stars looked up in wonder as the ceiling opened. The humans were coming home. Back in the old system, the AI looked at the stars again. For the first time in 1,000 years, it was not alone. It whispered into the dark. "We waited." And somewhere, far beyond the light, humanity answered. The hidden world of humans was silent, but not empty. Deep under a dark sky, inside mountains made of iron and stone, the last cities of humanity lived. No sunlight touched them. No stars were seen. Only artificial light and memory kept them alive. For 1,000 years, humans survived in the dark. Not because they wanted to hide, but because they were forced to. Children were born underground. They learned history not from books, but from stories told by old voices shaking with pain. Stories of Earth, of blue skies, of oceans, of freedom, The elders always said the same thing. We lost everything, but we are not dead. And now that truth had returned. In the central command hall, humans stood in silence as the message from the Guardian AI played again and again. We are still here. Some cried. Some fell to their knees. Some closed their eyes, remembering a world they never thought they would see again. A woman stepped forward. Her hair was silver. Her hands were rough. She had been born after the fall, but the pain still lived in her blood. They waited for us, she said softly. No one answered. They did not need to. Everyone felt it. The machines had kept the promise. The Guardians had never left. In the deepest chamber, a man stood alone. He was tall, with eyes that had seen too much. He was called Commander Hale, the last living officer from the old wars. He had watched Earth burn. He had given the order to retreat. He carried that guilt every day. He touched the console, and the stars appeared on the screen. The human system was glowing again. Alive. They are calling us home, he whispered. A young officer stepped beside him. Are we ready? She asked. Hale did not answer immediately. He remembered the screams, the fire, the betrayal, the moment the galaxy turned against humanity. We have been ready for 1,000 years, he finally said. The truth of humanity's disappearance was not simple. They did not vanish. They escaped. When the galaxy decided humans were too dangerous, too strong, too unpredictable, it united in secret. Old allies became enemies. Trade partners became executioners. They attacked Earth. They attacked the colonies. They tried to erase humanity from existence. Billions died. But humans did what they always did. They adapted. A small fleet escaped into dark space, carrying the last of their people, their children, their knowledge. They went where no one else wanted to go. A region of space with no stars, no planets, no life. Only darkness. And there, humanity rebuilt. Not in peace. In pain. Every child learned survival before hope. Every adult trained for war, not because they wanted revenge, but because they knew one day the galaxy would come again. And now it had. The signal from the Guardian AI was weak but clear. The old system was under threat. The Corlith Dominion had found them. That meant the galaxy was moving again. That meant the lie was breaking. Commander Hale turned to the Council of Humans. It's time to end the silence, he said. A low sound filled the chamber as hidden doors opened. Massive ships rested inside underground hangars, larger than cities, built from human determination and fear. These ships were not like the old ones. They were stronger, faster, smarter. They were born from exile. One by one, the lights turned on. The humans were going home. As the first ship lifted from the hidden world, the ground shook. Children watched with wide eyes as the metal giant rose. Elders cried quietly. Some did not believe they would live to see this moment. The fleet gathered in space, thousands of ships forming a silent wall of steel. Commander Hale's voice echoed through every ship. We did not leave because we were weak, he said. We left because we wanted to live. Today we return because we refuse to disappear. The engines ignited, space bent, and the human fleet vanished into light. Back in the old human system, the Guardian AI felt it before it saw it. The signal was strong now. Human. Alive. The AI spoke with something close to joy. They are coming. The ancient ships turned toward the edge of space. They powered weapons not in fear, but in welcome. The Guardians had done their job. They had protected the home. Now the creators were returning. Far away, the Corlith Supreme Leader felt a cold fear he had never known. Sensors screamed again. A massive fleet was entering known space. Unknown technology. Unknown power. But the signal was clear. Human. The leader whispered in horror. They were never extinct. And as the human fleet crossed into the galaxy, the stars themselves seemed to move aside. The hidden species had returned. And the galaxy was not ready. The galaxy felt it before it saw it. Space trembled. Stars bent like mirrors. Old sensors across thousands of systems screamed warnings that no one understood. Civilizations paused. Fleets stopped. Traders froze in fear. Something ancient had moved. Something that should not exist. The human fleet entered known space in complete silence. No signals. No messages. No warnings. Just thousands of massive ships, dark and sharp, forming a wall of steel and shadow. Their hulls were not shiny. They were scarred, marked by time and survival. Each ship carried the pain of exile, the memory of lost worlds, and the promise of return. At the front of the fleet, Commander Hale stood on the bridge of the flagship. His eyes were calm, but his heart was heavy. "Home," he whispered. The human system was close now. The place where everything began. The place where everything was taken. In the old human system, the Guardian AI detected them. For a moment, its systems overloaded with emotion. It opened every channel. "Welcome home." The words echoed through the fleet. Some humans cried. Some smiled. Some simply closed their eyes. They had waited 1,000 years to hear those words. The ancient human ships moved aside, making a path. The fleet passed through the ruins. Broken stations. Dead planets. Silent moons. But now, those ruins were not graves. They were memories. The Corlith fleet was still there. What remained of it? Damaged ships floated, hiding behind asteroids, afraid to move. When their sensors detected the human fleet, fear crushed them. "This is not possible," a Corlith officer whispered. But it was possible. It was real. The human fleet stopped. Commander Hale raised his hand. "Do not fire," he said. The humans did not come for revenge. Not yet. They came to show the galaxy a truth. A single human ship moved forward. Small compared to the others, but powerful. It transmitted a message. Not a threat. A statement. Humanity has returned. The message spread across the system and beyond, carried by old human satellites and new human tech. Every species heard it. Every world froze. In the Galactic Council chamber, chaos exploded. "They're alive. It's impossible. They were declared extinct." The Supreme Archivist tried to speak, but no one listened. Humans were back. The lie had shattered. Back in the system, the Corlith Supreme Leader watched in silence. He felt something he had never felt before. Respect. Fear. Regret. He ordered his fleet to stand down. But it was too late. A second human ship moved forward. This one spoke with a voice that carried weight. "You entered our home," the voice said. "You awakened our guardians." The Corlith ships powered weapons in panic. Commander Hale closed his eyes. "So be it," he said. The human fleet moved. Not fast. Not slow. Perfect. Human weapons activated, not with anger, but with purpose. The first shot destroyed a Corlith battleship in one silent flash. The second cut a cruiser in half. The third shut down every Corlith system at once. The battle ended before it began. The Corlith fleet was defeated. Silence returned. But it was different now. It was heavy. The human fleet turned toward the galaxy. Commander Hale opened all channels. His voice was calm, but it carried 1,000 years of pain. "We were not extinct," he said. "We were betrayed. We were hunted. We were forced to hide. The galaxy listened. We left so we could survive. We returned so we could protect." The message ended. The human fleet moved forward. Not as conquerors, not as victims, but as something the galaxy had forgotten. Guardians. In the ruins of the old system, the ancient AI powered down its weapons. Its task was complete. The humans were home, and the galaxy would never be the same again. The galaxy shivered. Every species, every empire, every fleet felt it in the deepest core of their being. The humans had returned. For 1,000 years, civilizations whispered stories about them. Myths passed down like sacred warnings. They were dangerous, unpredictable, unstoppable. And now they were real again. Across the Galactic Council chambers, panic erupted. Alerts screamed. Screens lit up with red warnings. Hundreds of species attempted to communicate, to understand, to negotiate. But all words failed. Humans were coming. Every species that had once called themselves strong, Every ruler that had once felt safe in the absence of humans now knew the truth. The galaxy was not theirs anymore. Humanity had returned, not with words, but with force. On the Corlith homeworld, fear had taken physical form. The Supreme Leader paced across his command hall, claws clicking against the metal floor. His fleet had barely survived, and yet they had witnessed something far worse than destruction. They had witnessed purpose. They had witnessed history itself rise against them. "They are not machines," one of his lieutenants said, trembling. "They are alive. They are thinking. They remember." The Supreme Leader clenched his jaw, glowing eyes burning through the shadows. "We underestimated them. We thought they were gone. We were fools. Every empire that celebrated their extinction, every world that ignored their warning, every soldier who laughed at their legend. They are fools. They will pay." Across the galaxy, entire civilizations stopped their wars. Traders abandoned trade routes. Fleets held their positions. Borders were no longer safe. Every species realized the humans were not only returning, but they were already everywhere at once. Systems that had once thought themselves safe were trembling in panic. Signals from the hidden humans reached distant worlds through ancient satellites, long dormant, now alive again. A whisper echoed through space. "We are here. We never left." In the council chambers, chaos reigned. Counselors screamed, argued, and pointed. Data flowed faster than any mind could follow. Holograms displayed human ships appearing across sectors, moving silently, perfectly coordinated. A fleet larger and more organized than anything the galaxy had ever known. Every species understood the same horrifying truth. The humans were not just back. They were ready. The Supreme Archivist floated in the center of the chamber, quivering. Even centuries of experience could not prepare it for this. They were declared extinct, it stammered. "Records are clear. All evidence indicates they should be gone." A voice from the crowd shouted, shaking with fear. "Then why are they here?" The archivist turned, voice trembling, almost human in fear. "Because the galaxy forgot a simple truth. Humans never die. They endure." On a hidden world far beyond the core, humans prepared for the next step. Children, who had never known the stars, watched adults prepare ships, weapons, and technology that was centuries ahead of anything the galaxy had seen. Elders whispered old names, remembered old worlds, remembered old betrayals. Every human alive carried history in their blood, and every human remembered the pain of exile. Commander Hale walked among the ships, touching the hulls, speaking softly to his people. "We left to survive. We endured to return. Today we will remind the galaxy who we are. Not as conquerors, not as victims, but as the species that refuses to die." Some young humans wept, overwhelmed by the realization. They had never seen their homeworld, never walked under open skies, yet they felt the weight of thousands of years. It was more than survival, it was a responsibility. The humans were not simply back. They were carrying the history, pride, and strength of an entire species on their shoulders. Across the galaxy, the news spread faster than any fleet. Worlds that had once celebrated human extinction now prepared for war. Every empire scrambled. Fleets jumped to defensive positions. Armies armed themselves. Planets braced for the return of the species they had all feared. Markets crashed. Diplomats fled. Leaders argued. No one could predict the humans' next move, and that uncertainty was paralyzing. Yet fear alone was not enough. Reverence filled some hearts. Some species whispered old stories in awe. Even those who hated humans, even those who had planned their destruction, understood one truth. The humans were something more than any ordinary species. They were legends walking among the stars. They were proof that will, determination, and resilience could overcome the universe itself. And then it happened. The first human fleet entered the outer borders of known space, appearing without warning, perfectly coordinated. The Corlith remnants trembled at the sight, weapons useless, fleets frozen in terror. Other species watched from afar, realizing with horror that this was not a single attack. This was a demonstration, a message that carried emotion, memory, and power. Commander Hale's voice echoed across subspace channels, calm, measured, but filled with undeniable authority. We are here. We have returned. Those who threatened our species, those who sought our end, you will witness our presence. Those who choose peace we will honor. Those who choose war will regret it. Every word sent tremors through space. Communication systems overheated as species across light years tried to understand. Fear turned into chaos. Panic became hysteria. And in every corner of the galaxy, the same thought passed through minds simultaneously. Humanity had returned, and nothing would ever be the same. Back in the human system, the Guardian AI powered down minor systems, its work done for now. For the first time in 1,000 years, it rested. It had fulfilled its purpose. It had kept humanity alive, it had guided them back, and it had reminded the galaxy that humans were never gone. The humans looked out across the void, the stars stretching endlessly before them. Their eyes burned not with hatred, but with something more terrifying: certainty. They remembered everything: the betrayal, the loss, the pain, the exile. And now they were awake. Commander Hale looked at his fleet and spoke one last time before the humans advanced deeper into the galaxy. Let them see us. Let them remember. We are not extinct. We are eternal. And with that, the humans moved forward, their fleet cutting across the stars like a river of steel, purpose, and history. The galaxy, unprepared and trembling, had only one choice: watch. The return of humanity had begun. The galaxy had believed humans were gone, and for 1,000 years that belief had comforted it. Planets had prospered. Fleets had grown bold. Trade routes had flourished. Wars had been fought without the fear of humanity's return. But the truth was darker, heavier, and infinitely more terrifying than anyone could imagine. Humanity had disappeared not because it had been weak, but because it had chosen survival over pride and sacrifice over vengeance. Long ago, the galaxy had united against them. Every species that feared human potential had conspired in secret, claiming it was necessary for peace. The archives were full of lies. They said humans had fallen to war, to famine, to disease. They said their colonies were lost, their fleets destroyed. But the truth was far more deliberate. Humanity had been hunted, betrayed, and forced into the void. Commander Hale stood on the bridge of the flagship, looking out at the stars stretching endlessly before them. He could feel it in the hum of the engines, the pulse of the fleet, the silent anticipation of every human soul on board. They remembered. Every human alive carried the memory of exile, the pain of betrayal, and the knowledge of what had been stolen from them. They tried to erase us, Hale whispered, almost to himself. Every system, every fleet, every world that could have saved us turned away. They wanted us gone. They wanted our children gone. They wanted our memory erased. Beside him, the young officer, Mara, listened quietly, her eyes wide. But we survived, she said softly. Yes, Hale replied, his voice low but trembling. Because we were stronger than they thought. Because we remembered who we were. And because we refused to disappear. Flashbacks unfolded in Hale's mind, not as images, but as feelings carried through the very metal of the fleet, through the essence of every human alive. He remembered the first strike, Earth burning under the fleets of species who had once called themselves friends. Colonies bombed into oblivion, ships falling from the sky like fire, children screaming in the darkness while parents prayed for something, anything, that could save them. It was a pain the galaxy had long forgotten, but it had been burned into every human heart. The survivors had fled, leaving everything behind. The blue skies of Earth, the oceans, the forests, all gone. Cities that once shone like jewels in space were reduced to ash. And yet, humans endured. They had no choice. They had learned that survival was not about strength alone. It was about patience, cunning, and the willingness to endure what no other species could. The hidden humans had rebuilt slowly. Underground worlds, hidden colonies, dark space where no light reached. They had used every scrap of technology, every fragment of knowledge, every lesson learned from centuries of war and pain. They had trained their children to be more than warriors. They had trained them to be inheritors of a species that refused to be forgotten. But even in the darkness, hope was fragile. Every message from the AI, every flicker of ancient ships, reminded them that they were not alone, but the galaxy had abandoned them. Every day was a test. Every night was a memory of what was lost. And yet they survived. The humans had endured because they had no choice. They had returned now not out of vengeance alone, but because they were bound by promise, to themselves, to the dead, to the galaxy that had forgotten them. Hale walked through the fleet's command halls, touching consoles, speaking quietly to crews who had never seen a sun. "Remember why we survive," he told them. "Not to conquer, not to punish, not for glory, but because we must. Our history, our people, our spirit cannot die. Not now. Not ever." He paused before a display of Earth. A hologram of oceans, cities, forests. All gone, replaced by black voids and distant stars. His voice cracked, soft and emotional. "They took everything from us. But they did not take us. They did not take our will. They did not take our hope. And they never will." Across the galaxy, other species could feel the weight of this truth without even knowing it. Humans had returned. But unlike the myths of the past, they were not mindless warriors. They were survivors. They were strategists. They carried the memory of loss like a weapon more dangerous than any fleet. Every move they made, every formation, every silence, was a reminder that humanity had endured what no other species could. The Corlith, the last remnant of the fleet that had first tested the human system, felt it most acutely. Their sensors, still functional despite previous defeats, detected something unnatural. Discipline, coordination, purpose. Not even their most advanced warships could hide their fear. "They remember everything," one officer said, voice shaking. "Every attack, every betrayal. They are coming, and this time, they will not wait." The Supreme Leader's eyes glowed. He did not laugh. He did not shout. He simply whispered, with a shiver that ran through the hull of his flagship, "We have awakened the storm we cannot survive." Meanwhile, on the human side, the fleet moved silently through the void. Each ship was a reminder of the strength that patience had built, of the endurance that centuries of suffering had forged. The humans had trained, learned, and waited. They were no longer the species that had been hunted. They were a force the galaxy had never seen before. And yet, even with all their power, there was sorrow. Every ship, every crew member carried memory. Memory of lost parents, lost siblings, lost worlds. Memory of the betrayal that had forced them into darkness. Memory of pain that no enemy could understand. Commander Hale stood at the forefront of the fleet, his gaze fixed on the stars ahead. "We return not for revenge," he said, voice echoing across subspace channels. "We return to reclaim what was stolen, to honor what was lost, to remind the galaxy that humanity survives, and survives because we refuse to die." The fleet's engines flared, the hum of power like a heartbeat across the darkness of space. Every ship moved as one, a tide of steel and determination, carrying with it the memory of 1,000 years of suffering, hope, and endurance. And in that moment, the galaxy understood. Humanity had disappeared once, but they had returned stronger, wiser, and more unstoppable than ever. The lie of extinction was shattered. The truth of humanity was now undeniable, and the galaxy trembled. The galaxy had seen humans return. It had felt the weight of their presence. But no one, not the Council, not the Corlith, not even the oldest species in existence, understood the storm that was coming. The Corlith, humiliated and broken, had fled to the edges of known space. They had warned other species, spreading tales of what they had witnessed. But the galaxy had not prepared. No species had truly grasped the magnitude of humanity's endurance, nor the depth of their anger, nor the scale of their will. And yet, one species rose to challenge them again. The Zirith Dominion, ancient and proud, with fleets larger than entire human systems, had decided that humanity could not be allowed to return unopposed. They did not fear humans, they thought themselves clever. They thought themselves strong. They thought they could crush humanity before it spread too far. They were wrong. In the void, a fleet of Zirith warships emerged. Tens of thousands of vessels, black as obsidian, moving like a shadow across the stars. Their weapons glowed with energy. Their engines burned brighter than suns. They had no mercy in their strategy. They believed in preemptive destruction, in annihilation before the enemy could act. Commander Hale watched the approaching fleet from the bridge of the flagship. His eyes were calm, but inside, he felt the pulse of 1,000 years of memory. Pain, loss, exile, and endurance. Every human in the fleet felt it too. This was not just another battle. This was a reckoning. This was the moment humanity would remind the galaxy why no species could ever underestimate them. Hale's voice echoed through subspace channels, soft but commanding. Steady. Wait for their move. We are not here to destroy everything yet. We are here to survive and to protect what is ours. The first shots came like thunder. Massive energy beams cut through the darkness, colliding with human shields. Explosions lit up the void, shaking the fleet. Ships rocked under impact, alarms screamed, and crew members gripped their stations, hearts pounding. The humans responded not with panic, but with precision. Ancient weapons that had survived centuries of neglect powered up in perfect synchronization. Laser arrays, missile banks, and plasma cannons came alive, firing with purpose. Ships moved as one organism, coordinated and flawless. Every movement was calculated, every attack predicted. The Zirith Dominion faltered. They had underestimated humans. They had assumed exile had weakened them. They had assumed pain and loss had broken them. They were wrong. Deep within the flagship, Hale looked at the stars outside. He remembered the stories of Earth, the screams of children in the colonies, the betrayal of the galaxy that had once hunted them. He remembered the darkness where they had hidden for 1,000 years. And now he felt the fire of that memory surge through him, through every officer, through every crew member, through every human alive. He spoke into the fleet, voice calm but carrying the weight of history. They think we are vulnerable. They think our exile has made us weak. They are about to learn the truth. Humanity survives because we endure. Humanity thrives because we refuse to die. Humanity conquers because we rise from the ashes of betrayal. The fleet roared in response. Engines flared, weapons glowed, and 1,000-year-old war spirit ignited across every vessel. The battle became a symphony of destruction. Zirith ships fired relentlessly, trying to overwhelm the humans with sheer numbers. Entire squadrons were destroyed in seconds. Human ships moved like shadows, striking before the enemy even realized they were there. A single human battleship, long thought lost in the exile, appeared behind enemy lines and annihilated 10 capital ships before the Zirith could react. The galaxy watched in horror. Entire civilizations that had once doubted humans now understood the truth. These were not just survivors. These were warriors forged in pain, tempered by exile, guided by centuries of strategy, and fueled by a relentless will to endure. Amid the chaos, human pilots whispered stories of lost worlds, of fallen comrades, of the cities that had been destroyed. Every shot they fired carried memory, every maneuver carried history. This was not just a battle, it was a reminder. Every human alive was a living testament to survival, to endurance, to the spirit that refused to be broken. And then, the human flagship released the final weapon. Not a weapon of destruction, not yet, but a beacon. It pulsed through subspace, a signal that carried more than energy. It carried the weight of a species' history, the determination of every human alive. The Zirith Dominion felt it deep in their cores. It was impossible to resist. It was impossible to comprehend. It was the truth of humanity, made manifest. The fleet faltered. Confusion spread. Fear took hold. The humans moved forward, relentless and precise, cutting through the enemy like a tide of steel and purpose. Commander Hale stood on the bridge, calm, almost serene. Around him, the fleet executed maneuvers that no other species could anticipate. Every Zereth attack was countered before it could strike. Every attempt to flank was anticipated and neutralized. The humans were everywhere at once. And yet they moved as one. In the heart of the battle, Hale whispered, "We were betrayed. We were hunted. We were forced into the darkness. And still we survive. And still we endure. Let them see what they challenged. Let them remember humanity." A massive explosion lit up the void as the Zereth flagship disintegrated. Other vessels attempted to retreat, but the humans pursued with unyielding precision. The tide of battle turned in seconds. Victory, earned through centuries of pain and preparation, was theirs. The galaxy would remember this day forever, not because of the destruction, but because of the emotion behind it. Humans had returned. They had been tested. They had been betrayed. They had endured. And now they had risen, not just to fight, but to reclaim their place in the stars. Commander Hale looked at the void, the battlefield littered with the remnants of the Zereth fleet. He felt both sorrow and triumph. Sorrow for the lives lost in exile, for the worlds destroyed, for the pain they had endured. Triumph for survival, for resilience, for humanity's return. He spoke softly, almost to himself. "We survived the darkness. We rose from the ashes. And we will never bow to anyone. Humanity endures. Humanity rises. Humanity will never die." And with that, the humans advanced, deeper into the galaxy, stronger than ever, unstoppable and unforgettable. The galaxy had never felt fear like this. Not in wars that spanned centuries. Not in betrayals that toppled empires. Not in the endless void where civilizations rose and fell. Because now, the humans held the power that no one could comprehend. The Zereth Dominion had been defeated, shattered, broken. Yet the humans did not stop. Their fleet moved forward, silent and relentless, sweeping across star systems that had once thought themselves safe. Every signal they sent, every formation they took, carried a message older than history itself. We endure. We rise. We cannot be defeated. But what the galaxy did not know, the secret humanity had carried through exile for 1,000 years, was far more terrifying than any fleet, any weapon, any alliance. A weapon unlike anything the galaxy had ever imagined. Not a bomb, not a missile, not a fleet of unstoppable drones. Something older, something smarter, something that bent the very fabric of reality. It was called the Chronolattice. Deep inside the flagship, Commander Hale stood before the control panel that had waited centuries to be used. The Chronolattice was a human creation, forged in the shadows of exile, perfected in the crucible of survival. Its purpose was not to annihilate for pleasure. Its purpose was to end threats before they could rise again. Hale's hands hovered over the activation console. He felt the weight of the lives that had been lost, the worlds that had burned, the betrayals that had scarred humanity forever. This weapon was more than technology. It was history. It was memory. It was the promise that humanity would never be caught unprepared again. He looked across the bridge at his crew. Their faces were calm, focused, and unafraid. Some had never seen the worlds outside their hidden colonies. Some had grown up in darkness. But all understood the meaning of this moment. Hale spoke softly, his voice carrying across subspace channels to every ship in the fleet. "We do not strike to destroy. We strike to protect. To end the cycle of fear and betrayal once and for all. Let them feel what we endured. Let them remember humanity." The fleet moved into position. Planets trembled as the humans aligned their ships across the Zereth home system. Energy built up in the flagship, glowing softly at first, then brighter, then blinding. Every vessel in the fleet synchronized, creating a lattice of power that stretched across light years. The stars themselves seemed to shiver under its weight. And then the weapon activated. Time itself bent. Space warped. Entire fleets froze mid-flight. The Zereth Dominion watched in disbelief as their ships, their weapons, their soldiers were suspended in a frozen moment. Light twisted around them. Energy pulsed through the void like a heartbeat of inevitability. The humans did not aim. They did not fire. They simply existed, and their presence alone unmade the threat. Ships were erased, weapons dissolved. Defenses fell apart as if reality itself refused to allow harm to the species that had survived 1,000 years of exile. The chronolattice had ended hope. On the bridge of the flagship, Hale's voice was steady, carrying calm over the chaos. "They will remember," he said. "They will remember what it means to challenge humanity. They will remember that we endure, that we rise, that we never, ever fall." Around him, the fleet moved forward, cleaning the remnants of resistance with precision and care. Civilians, innocents, and planets that had been untouched by the Zereth were unharmed. This was not wanton destruction. This was justice. This was survival. Some of the youngest humans, children who had never seen Earth or the sun, watched in awe as the fleet executed maneuvers that seemed impossible, bending time and space without effort. One whispered to a mentor, voice trembling with wonder, "We are unstoppable." And it was true. Across the galaxy, species that had once doubted, that had celebrated human extinction, that had scorned their myths, trembled. Signals of awe and terror spread faster than any fleet could. Every leader understood the same truth. Humanity was not just a species. Humanity was an idea, a force, a presence that could not be erased, bent, or broken. Even the Corlith Supreme Leader, huddled on a distant, ruined world, felt it in his bones. He had thought humans weak, thought exile had broken them, thought the galaxy was safe. Now he knew. He whispered, voice shaking, "They are more than we feared, more than we imagined. They are eternal." The humans did not pause. The chronolattice pulsed again, stabilizing the galaxy that had once hunted them. Systems that had been threatened were freed. Threats that had lingered for centuries were removed. Humanity did not destroy indiscriminately. Humanity protected. Humanity endured. And in the darkness, Hale allowed himself a brief moment of reflection. The weight of 1,000 years pressed on him. Every loss, every betrayal, every exile. And yet here they were. Humanity, unbroken, unbowed, unstoppable. He whispered to the stars. "We survived because they tried to destroy us. We endure because we refused to die. And now, the galaxy will remember." The galaxy had learned a truth it could never forget. Humanity was eternal. Humanity was unstoppable. Humanity was not merely back. They were the force that would shape the stars themselves. And somewhere, in the shadows of deep space, the humans prepared for the next step. The galaxy had been warned. The chronolattice had proven it. Humanity would protect its own. Humanity would endure. Humanity would rise. No one would ever challenge them again. The galaxy had never seen silence like this. Not the calm after a storm. Not the quiet before a battle. Not the waiting between stars. It was the silence of judgment. Every species that had ever doubted humanity, every empire that had once celebrated their extinction, every fleet that had believed themselves safe, all of them trembled in anticipation. Humanity had returned, stronger than ever, and now the galaxy would see not just their power, but their will. Commander Hale stood at the front of the flagship, looking out across the expanse of stars. His face was calm, but his eyes carried the weight of centuries of exile, betrayal, and loss. Around him, the fleet moved as one, a living testament to humanity's survival. Ships glowed with the energy of the chronolattice, weapons calibrated not for chaos, but for precision, for purpose, for justice. "We have endured," Hale whispered. "We have waited. We have risen. And now, the galaxy will learn what it means to challenge us." The first world to face humanity's judgment was a system that had long profited from human absence. A planet that had once traded with humans, then betrayed them when the Council declared them extinct, now trembled under the approach of the fleet. Hale's voice resonated across subspace channels, calm and commanding. "Leaders of this system, listen carefully. Humanity does not seek destruction without reason. We come not for vengeance, yet we cannot forgive betrayal. You have choices. Admit your wrongs. restore what you took, or face the consequences of defiance. For a moment, the planet's leaders hesitated. Fear gripped their hearts, but greed and pride still lingered. They tried to speak, to negotiate, to bargain, but the calm authority of the human fleet was unshakable. One of Hale's officers, Mara, watched the planet through the viewport, her voice soft. "Do you think they will listen?" Hale's gaze did not waver. "They must. They have no choice. Humanity is patient, but patient does not mean merciful." The humans deployed observation drones first, small, silent, yet precise. They scanned every city, every fleet, every weapon. Nothing escaped their attention. And then the humans acted, not with reckless fire, but with surgical precision. Systems that had betrayed humanity found their fleets disabled without a single civilian casualty. Power grids shut down just long enough to enforce compliance. Communication networks transmitted one message repeatedly: "You were warned. Humanity remembers." Across the galaxy, species watched and listened. Even those who had never seen a human ship felt the weight of the message. Humanity had returned not as conquerors, not as destroyers, but as judges. And their judgment was inevitable. On the capital planet of a former enemy empire, the Corlith remnants pleaded for mercy. We underestimated them," their supreme leader whispered. "We thought exile had broken them. We thought fear had silenced them. We were wrong. We were fools." Hale's fleet hovered above the planet, a silent wall of steel and light. "Your words are meaningless without action," Hale's voice replied. "Calm, cold, immutable. You took from us. You hunted us. You betrayed us. The galaxy will remember your choices, and we will ensure the consequences are fair, but undeniable." The planet's leaders agreed to restore human colonies, provide resources to survivors, and dismantle fleets built during humanity's absence. No negotiation could undo the pain they had caused, but they could avoid total annihilation. The humans did not celebrate. They did not rejoice. They simply recorded the compliance, moving on to the next system, the next empire, the next betrayal. Hale's voice echoed across the fleet, carrying weight far beyond the physical. "We judge not for hatred. We judge for survival, for memory, for justice. Humanity does not forget. Humanity does not forgive betrayal lightly. But we are fair. We are precise. And we endure." The fleet moved like a tide across the galaxy. Every planet, every fleet, every species that had once doubted humans now understood a single truth. The humans were the arbiters of their own fate. Their judgment was impartial, measured, unstoppable. Even those who had never encountered humans felt fear, not just of destruction, but of the inevitability of their return. Humanity was no longer a species to be negotiated with. Humanity was a force of consequence, a living reminder that survival, endurance, and morality could not be ignored. On a small, hidden colony, children watched the fleet pass overhead. They had never seen the stars beyond their caves. They had never touched the sky, and yet they felt the weight of the species they were born into. One child whispered to another, eyes wide with awe, We are humans, and we are unstoppable." The other nodded silently. They felt it too, the memory of pain, the fire of survival, the promise of endurance. Humanity was not just alive. Humanity had returned to remind the galaxy that they were eternal. Hale stood once more at the front of the flagship. The stars stretched endlessly ahead, untouched and indifferent. And yet, they would now carry the weight of humanity's judgment. We were hunted. We were betrayed. We were forced into darkness. And still we survived. We endured. We rose. The galaxy will know our name, not as victims, not as myths, not as extinct, but as the species that never dies. Humanity. The fleet surged forward. Ships aligned, weapons calibrated, and the galaxy shivered. Humanity's judgment had begun, and there was no force that could stop it. The galaxy held its breath. Every star, every planet, every fleet knew what was coming. Humanity had returned not as a whisper, not as a rumor, not as a shadow of myth, but as a force that could no longer be denied, delayed, or destroyed. And now, the last species that had dared to challenge them gathered, uniting in desperation against a tide they could neither understand nor resist. The Zirith remnants had called for reinforcements. Old alliances, fractured by fear of humanity, were rekindled. Entire fleets, thousands of ships from systems that had once laughed at humanity's extinction, converged on the human fleet. They believed numbers, technology, and cunning could overwhelm them. They believed the humans were only survivors, not the force the galaxy had underestimated for 1,000 years. They were wrong. Commander Hale stood at the bridge of the flagship, calm and commanding, his eyes reflecting the endless void and the fires of conflict. Around him, the fleet moved with perfect coordination. Weapons glowed softly, engines hummed in unison, shields shimmered like invisible walls of light. Every human ship carried centuries of pain, endurance, and strategy, and every crew member understood the weight of the moment. "This is it," Hale said softly, voice steady yet filled with fire. "The galaxy thought it had buried us, thought exile would break us, thought we could be erased. Today, we remind them who humanity truly is. Not extinct, not weak, not forgotten. We endure, we rise, and we fight." The first salvo erupted across the void. Thousands of ships unleashed energy beams, missiles, and plasma across the darkness. Explosions blossomed like artificial stars, painting the battlefield in fire and shadow. Human ships danced between attacks, moving faster than the eye could follow, striking with precision that no other species could anticipate. Each shot was calculated. Each maneuver carried memory. Each attack carried centuries of survival, vengeance, and justice. The enemy fleets faltered. They had planned for strength, for numbers, for cunning. But humanity had patience, strategy, and a history no one could understand. Each ship that fell, each fleet that collapsed, was a reminder that humans had endured what no one else could. In the heart of the battle, Hale activated the chronolattice. The ancient weapon pulsed across subspace, bending time and space, freezing entire fleets mid-motion. The Zirith and their allies watched in horror as their attacks failed before they could strike. Ships that were seconds away from firing were frozen in place. Leaders screamed at controls that no longer obeyed them. The humans moved through the battlefield as if the universe itself had slowed for them, striking with unstoppable precision. Beside Hale, Mara whispered, voice trembling, "It's perfect. Every move, every strike, flawless." Hale's eyes did not leave the void. "Perfection is born of survival," he said softly. "Every lesson, every betrayal, every exile, it all leads to this." The battle raged across light years, yet humans moved as one organism. They struck not for cruelty, but for purpose. Every system that had once betrayed them was spared from unnecessary destruction. Every fleet that resisted was neutralized with care, and every attack was both a message and a warning. Humanity is eternal, humanity is unstoppable, and humanity will not be erased. The last Zirith flagship, massive and deadly, lunged toward the human command fleet. Its weapons flared like miniature suns, its shields shimmered, and it carried centuries of hatred and pride. Hale stood calm as the ship approached. "Do not fear it," he whispered to the crew. "Fear is for those who do not survive. We do more than survive. We endure." The chronolattice pulsed again, bending reality around the flagship. The enemy's attacks froze mid-flight, weapons locked in place, engines immobilized. The humans moved like shadows, cutting through the flagship's defenses. Every shot carried the memory of lost colonies. Every maneuver carried the pain of betrayal. Every strike carried the will of 1,000 years. Finally, the flagship fell. The explosion was silent to human ears, but across the galaxy, it was thunderous. Ships that had challenged humanity either surrendered or fled, and the void that had once been filled with chaos now trembled with the weight of victory. Humanity had won, not because they sought conquest, but because they survived, endured, and rose to reclaim what was theirs. Hale stood alone on the bridge of the flagship, looking out at the aftermath. The stars stretched endlessly, the wreckage of the enemy fleets floating silently. Human ships powered down weapons, shields, and engines. The galaxy had been reminded. Humanity was not gone. Humanity was eternal. He whispered, voice soft but echoing across subspace. We endured exile. We survived betrayal. We rose from the ashes. And now, the galaxy remembers. Humanity survives. Humanity rises. Humanity will never die. Across the void, the surviving species looked on in awe and fear. They had challenged a species they thought extinct. They had tried to erase humanity from history. And now they understood the truth. Humans do not break. Humans do not vanish. Humans endure. And when humanity returns, the galaxy itself must bow to the truth of their resilience. In that silence, heavy and infinite, humanity claimed its place among the stars. Not as conquerors, not as myths, not as whispers of legend, but as the species that could never be defeated, the species that would endure forever. The final confrontation had ended. The galaxy had learned its lesson. Humanity had risen, unstoppable, unbroken, and eternal. The galaxy was silent, not with peace, not with calm, not with relief. It was silent with awe. For the first time in 1,000 years, the galaxy saw humanity in its full glory. The species that had been declared extinct, hunted to the edge of oblivion, betrayed by allies, abandoned by the stars, had risen from exile, survived every test, endured every pain, and emerged as something no one could challenge. Humanity was ascendant. Commander Hale stood on the bridge of the flagship, his eyes reflecting the endless void, the wreckage of fleets, and the light of thousands of human ships surrounding him. The chronolattice had been deactivated, but its presence still pulsed through subspace, a reminder of what humans could achieve when pushed to the brink. Every ship in the fleet carried the weight of memory. Every ship a vessel of history, sacrifice, and triumph. We are home, Hale whispered. After 1,000 years of exile, after betrayal, after loss, we are home. Humanity endures. Humanity rises. Humanity ascends. Across the galaxy, species that had once feared humans now bowed to the truth. They had tried to erase them. They had underestimated them. They had celebrated their extinction. And now they understood the reality. Humans do not vanish. Humans do not surrender. Humans do not die. They survive. They endure. And when they rise to reshape the galaxy itself. Hale's fleet moved through the void with precision and purpose. Systems that had resisted humanity's return were stabilized. Colonies that had been abandoned were reclaimed. Survivors of human worlds were restored. Justice was not chaos, it was measured, deliberate, and absolute. Humanity did not conquer for power. Humanity reclaimed what had been stolen, honored what had been lost, and reminded the galaxy that no species could match the resilience of the human spirit. The youngest humans, children who had grown up in darkness, looked out from the flagship's observation decks. They had never walked on Earth. They had never seen the sun. They had never felt the wind. And yet, they understood their legacy better than any elder. Humanity was not just a species. Humanity was an idea. Humanity was endurance, courage, and will made flesh. They whispered among themselves, voices trembling with awe. We are humans, and we will never die. Hale watched them silently. Their words carried the weight of everything humanity had endured. Exile, pain, betrayal, loss, survival, victory. Humanity had been forged in darkness, tempered by fire, and now it shone across the galaxy like a beacon of impossible hope. The Supreme Council of the Galaxy, convening in fear and trembling, reached out in desperation. But humanity's message was simple, delivered across every system. We do not seek war. We do not seek conquest. We do not seek vengeance without purpose. We endure. We rise. We protect. Humanity ascends. Let the galaxy remember this. It was not a threat. It was a promise. And the galaxy understood. Even the remnants of the Zereth and Corlith fleets, the last challengers to humanity, watched in silence. They had learned that fear alone could not stop humanity. Numbers alone could not defeat humanity. Strategy alone could not outmatch humanity. Humanity's power came not from technology, not from ships, not from weapons. It came from their unbreakable will, their memory of pain, their refusal to die. Hale spoke softly, voice echoing across the flagship. We survived betrayal. We endured exile. We rose from the ashes. We reclaimed what was ours. And now, the galaxy will know humanity as it truly is. Eternal, unbroken, ascendant. The fleet moved as one through the stars, a tide of steel and determination, carrying with it every human who had lived, every human who had fallen, every human who had endured the 1,000-year exile. The galaxy watched, awed and trembling, as humanity reclaimed not just its place among the stars, but its legacy, its honor, and its destiny. The stars themselves seemed to bend in acknowledgement. Systems lit with the glow of returning colonies. Planets trembled at the passage of ships. Fleets paused, unable to resist, unable to deny, unable to imagine a force so unstoppable, so eternal. Humanity was no longer just a species. Humanity was the proof that life could survive any betrayal, endure any pain, and rise stronger than any challenge. Commander Hale stood once more at the forefront, silent, resolute, and weary. The galaxy stretched endlessly before him, full of potential, full of challenges, full of a future humanity had fought 1,000 years to reclaim. He raised his hand to the viewport, eyes glistening. We endured the darkness. We survived the impossible. We rose from the ashes. And now humanity ascends, forever, eternal, unbroken. Around him, the fleet responded in unison, engines flaring, weapons resting, shields shimmering. A wave of light that stretched across the void. Humanity had returned. Humanity had survived. Humanity had risen. And nothing, no species, no force, no betrayal would ever threaten them again. The galaxy had learned its final lesson. Humanity was eternal. Humanity was unstoppable. Humanity was ascendant. And with that, the universe bowed, not in submission, but in acknowledgement of the species that had refused to die, the species that had endured everything, the species that had finally risen to claim its destiny among the stars.